Now hear me out. League of Legends. Okay, let me explain. The Summoner's Rift you see is a 5v5 game mode, and the roles are all pretty diverse and deep. You have the flashy, powerful spearhead of the team who has the easiest time going and putting themselves into the businesses of their teammates. You have the self-centered, similarly powerful, if not more powerful than the leader, side carry. You have the low investment, high impact protector and enabler of all, and the constantly plotting, scheming strategist who has to be in the right place at the right time and excels when they do exactly that. What I'm saying is that top lane is kind of like the muscle of the group. The muscle is the party's physical problem solver. While the leader or brains would discuss their best course of action and come up with different results that cater to the strengths of others, the muscle has their own strength, and no doubts about exactly what to do with it. Their role is to do the heavy lifting that needs to be done, and free up others to worry about problems that don't demand brawn that they may or may not have. This identity as a solver of very specific problems also kinda makes them simple, but hey, simple works. Top lane is a pillar, and 9 out of 10 times they'll be the strongest person in their teams. When something happens to top lane, it is a bad sign of things to come, and as it works out, they tend to have the best results cooperating with the plots of the smart one, the jungler, and letting their almost mirrored strength lift the rest of their team higher. A support exerts themselves with vision, an ADC exerts themselves with gold, mid and jungle exert pressure, and top lane scares the shit out of other people. Nobody wants to go to top lane. In a survey of every single person who plays mid or jungle, not support mind you, because when those madmen roam, they go wherever the violence takes them. Surveys said that ganking top lane was like going for a hangnail. They are a pillar of strength and a problem that will always have to be assessed, usually by the other top laner and someone else to fix the odds. The muscle tends to be a powerhouse like that, a monolith for the rest of the squad to rally around. If the kinda weak brains and the underdeveloped lancers stumble across a sticky situation where knowledge or mechanics won't cut it, the school bus thick slab of meat with, name a magic weapon or bludgeoning instrument, is going to be the best bet for turning the table unless something has gone horribly wrong for someone at some point in the game. If the muscle's doing its job, then they can serve as the foundation to handle the bigger bites of action, and leave the more manageable morsels and lean meat for the rest of the group to chew on. That sort of thing enables growth, because if a hurdle is too high for the hero or any of the others, there's a good chance it's not too high for the muscle, kicking the roadblock to the curb and opening up opportunities for them to pit themselves against challenges that better suit them, whether for statistical reasons or numerical ones. It's their job to be the force that blows down the walls that are just a bit too thick. A good muscle does all of the above and more, but like a thick slice of meat, it's best to cut it up and digest it one bite at a time. Exactly. But that's not to say the muscle's all that complex, but it's the little complexities that set the good ones apart from the bad. Let's say a little something about muscles. Naruto is a story about Naruto. Big shocker. He's the hero, Sasuke's the lancer, and you could probably call Sakura the heart, but she's more relegated to being the girl and kinda not much else. To balance this group out, they need someone to guide them, a mentor whose wisdom, experience, and insights can lift them higher, and one who is far, far more powerful than all of them combined. Kakashi is friggin' awesome. Let's leave the personal feelings at the door. Kakashi's function as a member of the party is really only apparent during the Land of Waves. After that, the formation of Team 7 breaks apart, with Kakashi having to stay out of the Chunin exams, being incapacitated by Itachi before Tsunade's arc, and staying out of Sasuke retrieval because he couldn't be spared for the mission. And it's kind of a shame we didn't get more drama from that. We're not workshopping story arcs or using them as examples. Kakashi is a pillar of strength and organization. He's the one who shows us the depths of the trainees' skills, and the pillar that gets yanked out from beneath them when our main trio finally needs to show some progress. He hands them their asses, teaches them a lesson, lets them handle the Mist Village mooks, tells them to stay the hell away from Zabuza like a responsible adult, and then he gets captured, and the moment the support gives out, the hero and Lancer step up, and the moment the muscle is back in the fray, he shows us that he was very much holding back during our first outing with him. Not only is Kakashi strong, and not only does his strength stand out compared to the rest of his party, he stands out when compared to his peers. The gulf is more steep, the barrier that comes with his presence is much thicker, and it means he has to be taken away from conflict much more often. Which is fine, because we get all the proof we need. Giant Water Vortex, the strongest jutsu we've seen and will see for a while, asserts his power, and Lightning Blade, similarly, is the most lethal jutsu we've ever seen. Both of these don't keep their crowns, sadly. But it sets an effective measuring stick on top of doing all the duty a team muscle should. Going forward, whenever Kakashi calls someone dangerous, we wind up feeling it, and in those occasions where someone beats him, that person is raised up even higher than the pillar can lift the rest of Team 7. Every encounter with the muscle has the chance to lift someone higher. His team, the bad guy of the week, the one-off characters who will only be in this specific arc, or the main villains whose lines of conflict won't be resolved for years. The same is true in League, where the top laner showing up usually sways a fight. The saving of a top laner usually turns a game, and the defeat of a top laner usually means whoever got the body in the bag is the biggest fish in the pond. This video isn't about League of freaking Legends. But it's applicable. It's applicable, but not concrete, and you can't make a building with just one block. Kakashi's a success because he's an interesting character. He has and imparts values that are core to the story and themes, and his influence reaches beats and resolutions everywhere from minor to narrative-shakingly major. He is not the problem solver. He's another person doing their best, but his best is being there to cover for the weaknesses of those who count on him, and to put the pain on anyone those others can't. He's a mentor, which is just the cherry on top, because he gives everyone who fights alongside him and against him a platform to show off. That platform is less important than reliability in action, because the muscle is most prominently defined by being strong, and are further defined by the things that strength helps them and those who associate themselves with them make progress in whatever it happens to be. The muscle doesn't even have to be a fighter if the media doesn't call for it. But it's easiest to keep the conversation about more tangible things. If you want to talk about a single character being more reliable than the rest of their peers until they finally catch up, surpass them, and start taking on challenges of their own, we gotta look at Fire Emblem. I love Frederick, I really do, and he is going to be our poster boy for lesson number 2. Most early members of any Fire Emblem game aren't great, not for a while at least, and in some cases not ever. You say that like these early missions would even be feasible without a healer like Lisa. I'm saying until a few missions into the game, Frederick is basically invincible. Fire Emblem games are unit builders and are very stat-centered. Units start out weak, and sometimes slightly specialized, and they can be promoted to have much higher stats and much more specific specialization. Frederick is part of the team out of the gate, and he's already promoted, which means he's naturally in a completely different league than the rest of your units for a long, long while, and he's similarly in a different weight class than most of the enemies you're going to have to deal with until you get your bearings. Frederick is a great knight, which means he has good weapon proficiencies across the board, he's versatile, and has a good, high, even spread of stats. He's a bulldozer that clears the ground for the rest of your units to feed themselves on fodder, and because of the pairing system, he's a horse-drawn carriage to promotion for anyone you want to stick with him. But he's only a foundation. Frederick is statted out to fall off pretty hard, and in a poetic sort of way, he falls off around the time that the others can start being the foundation for him to be raised back up into whatever kind of specialty you want him to be. You say that like Frederick doesn't swing it with the best of them, even without a second seal. Because he doesn't. Unless we're playing on the easiest difficulties, Frederick hits a wall pretty early on. Great Knights are a strong body, but you cannot get deep into a Fire Emblem game without excelling at something. The Jack of all trades, Master of none is another kind of foundation, a reliable spine and backbone of a party that can always contribute and succeed until the rest set themselves apart. And when that Jack is a bulwark, those specialties that are being cultivated get security, and a player gets confidence. I can take some risk here because I know that I have Frederick backing them up, leading the charge, adding a big chunk of damage to every skirmish this unit I love is a part of, because even his follow-up attacks are enough to wash the rabble down the gutter. He serves a purpose, and Frederick's kind of stick-in-the-mud character is a good pair for it. His function is being a springboard for Chrom, Robin, Lisa, Lonku, Virian, Sumia, everyone. That foundation gives us security that Chrom will always become a Great Lord, and even if most people wind up putting him away later down the line, that's fine. That's part of the job. The muscle is a protector. A babysitter. And what's the problem with that? I just think the muscle should be a bit more imposing. Reliability is the name of the game, and you don't get more reliable than the dude that just fucks shit. Let me rephrase. Kenpachi muck-futhering Zaraki is the muscle. He is the foundation that Ichigo climbs on during the Soul Society arc to really understanding Zangetsu and how to fight seriously. But we're not talking about that. Whenever there's an opponent that can't be dealt with by conventional means, or that is out of Ichigo's pay grade, they always have to deal with Kenpachi. Noitora is a spot at number 5, and Ichigo is still exhausted after fighting a spot at number 6. He cannot cut him because his skin is too hard, and even though Nelio helps him out, she can't keep the pressure up, so Kenpachi steps in to clear the hurdle so Ichigo can move on. And he bypasses that one-of-a-kind defense by just putting 2 hands on his sword. Yami is a spot on number 0 and constantly goes stronger and stronger, but he gets fodderized by Kenpachi and Byakuya, who aren't even interested in dealing with him. Giriko doesn't get to explain his wacky time-fulbering nonsense because Kenpachi gets bored and cuts him in half before he has to deal with it. And Gremmy, the guy who basically has a command console in his head, only loses because Kenpachi is so nonsensically strong and battle-crazy that he imagines himself losing to Zaraki and it becomes a reality. Aizen wanted nothing to do with him because he thought maybe, just maybe, he'd be too bullshit for his plan to account for. Yuha was the same. Despite dogging Kenpachi in the first invasion, he knew there was a firm chance that he becomes a thorn in his side because that strength is completely beyond reason. It's completely beyond the conventions that other characters have to abide by, and that makes Zaraki the guy the Bleach verse calls when they need a problem bulldozed. And when someone beats Zaraki, it's a big deal. Ichigo beats him to establish himself as a talent, and Yuha beats him to establish himself as the biggest threat we've ever seen. Yeah, but muscles aren't just goalposts, you two. They're security, relief, reliability in some sense, but not every sense. They're the party's bones, the spine keeping everything upright, the ribs keeping everything safe, the thick skull that can smash through any amount of balsa wood. Without the bones, you get more meat by volume, sure, but you don't have the security. You don't have the structure. You force the rest of the party to brave the harshness of the world without a guide or a net. And for drama, that's great. But self-taught lessons hardly stick. And what better person to teach those lessons or be used as a tool to teach those lessons than the one who keeps the biggest battles for themselves? That's what being the muscle is about.